So first, I mean, what is diversity? Diversity is differences, differences in people's perspective, difference in based in, in many forms, including race and ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomically background, language, national origin, religious commitment. So there's many differences, that make us unique. Equity is making sure that we are monitoring, that we are, responding to any challenges, to responding to any bias, any harassments, discriminations, that we have policies in place that guarantee equal access, equal opportunities for all the members in the community to succeed. And inclusion is making sure that those voices are heard, making sure that every member in our team or our community feel that they belong to this place. So it's important that, we just not concentrate just on diversity, but also that we, are also, driving at equity and inclusion. So making sure that we are all successful. So here, it is my path. Throughout, my career. I'm from Arroyo, Puerto Rico, and there I attended high school. I went then to the University of Puerto Rico in San Juan. Where I completed a BS in chemistry back in 2002. From there, I moved to Texas. Texas A&M for a PhD in biochemistry, and graduated in 2008. From here, I went to the University of Pennsylvania, where I completed a postdoc in cancer pharmacology. And then I did a transition from the bench to administration, and I accepted a position at the University of Pennsylvania, was there for a total of 12 years, including my postdoc. And I was the assistant in for research training programs and part of the faculty in pharmacology. And I recently transitioned here at UT Southwestern in Dallas, Texas, early this year, and accepted a position as an assistant in for diversity and inclusion and assistant professor of pharmacology. So as you can see, it's a very straightforward. I didn't take breaks between, undergrad and between my PhD and postdoc and my current career. But I want to highlight that, things that you don't see, by just looking at a CV or a resume, that I think is important and what makes me a unique member of my team. I'm a first-generation low-income student from a really small town, rural town in Puerto Rico that have less than 20,000 people, and it's still less than 20. It's a really small school. I attended public school, so no access to research lab, no access to role models. From there, I went to the capital city, and even though it was only 45 minutes north, I didn't have a car. So as a low-income person, there was a lot of struggles, a lot of financial instability. A lot of like fear of disappointing my family because I was, spending this much money to go elsewhere to go to school. So there's a lot of feelings, and a lot of challenge that I experienced as a first-generation low-income student. Also, I'm disabled. I'm 100% deaf through my, right ear, and this is something that when I was in high school, it was not noticeable. This is something that I grew up with. But when I went to college and the classrooms were bigger, and the absence of microphones, that made me, disadvantaged in many occasions. The place in where I was giving the talk, if it was not accessible for me, if the room was set up in a way that I was facing the wrong way, those things were challenges that I experienced during my undergrad, and then they continue towards, and now living in a pandemic, you could imagine how hard it's, not to have closed captions in events, or how hard it is to try to hear, and mentoring and fostering a community is about listening. That should be the number one step. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard to be in places where it's not accessible for all of us. Growing up, in Puerto Rico, didn't have any problems with the language, but moving to the States and coming from the public schools, I didn't have access to learning English before. So, so it does the struggle of being like, English as a second language. So, many of us, they're immigrants to these countries, has to face it. Writing your thesis is really hard. But writing your thesis when English is not your first language, it's even harder. So we had to come up with resources that we guarantee that everybody, have the tools to be successful. And I already mentioned this, like going on in a place where there is lack of resources make it difficult because for me, representation matters. And if you don't see yourself, you don't see people that look like you in positions. I mean, you don't even know that it's possible for you to accomplish those goals as well. And these are struggles like choosing a career, expectations of desire, should I move away, should I stay closer to my family, the sense of guilt of leaving my family before, not knowing how to navigate the system, from everything as simple as sending an email to things more complicated like going to the doctor, writing letters. So it's very challenging when you're a first-gen low incomes. And then things like time management and student strategy, and then imposter syndrome that we many I mean experience, and I still till this day, I mean, this is something that I experience that comes and goes. And then the fear of disappointment when you're the first one in your family, I mean, transitioning through a career path that you don't know how it is. I mean, it's the fear of disappointing not just yourself but also your family and the people coming behind you. So but at the end of my career, I realized that I was there because I belong to these places. And I'm here because I earn. I mean, nothing is given for free, so I earn my place. And I'm here because I truly believe that our contribution makes us a stronger community. And we have to believe in this, and this is true. I mean, you have earned your space, and you have earned, I mean, all that you have accomplished. So we have to celebrate that as well. So, and not because the role was challenging for me, I had to make it challenging for others. And that's something that I share with mentors across the nation. It's like, you know, it was challenging for me, but now it's my goal to use my experiences to make it easier for those coming behind me. And I think that's my motto. That's how I approach my work. So, and then mentors, I mean, I have several calls. These are all my calls. I mean, at the beginning, I have my Twitter handle. I like to express my experiences and the way my mentoring advice, I mean, through quotes. So also, I mean, and I'm going to highlight parts that I think are important. I mean, whenever you're fostering or working towards fostering an environment that is inclusive, it's like to be empathetic. You know, we're all come from different places. We're all different walks of life. Not because I'm come from Puerto Rico, I will think like others people coming from Puerto Rico. I mean, you have to understand that we all come from different paths of life. I mean, we all experience differences, I mean, throughout our careers. You know, and also, I mean, whenever you're mentoring students and mentoring colleagues or mentoring, I mean, any members of your team, it's like, you know, you have to take the time to listen to foster a trust. I see so many people right away jumping and giving you advice based on assumptions and without even trying to develop the relation first. So I think it's really important for you to build the trust, build relations, and then, I mean, be there to provide, I mean, resources, I mean, to your students. Oh, and also understand that you as a mentor are not expected to know all the answers. But you as a mentor, I mean, you should work with other mentors to identify resources, I mean, to help your trainees or help your team members. So it's all about listening, be empathetic, I mean, fostering trust and be a teamwork. And it takes a lot of like, I mean, time to build a network. But I mean, for me, a network is nothing if I don't use my network to empower my people. And I think that that's really important. And I appreciate, I mean, Horizons for doing this, for bringing all people across, I mean, the world together to work together. And I think more of that has to happen for us to move forward. So, and then, I mean, finally, I mean, and a piece of advice from me is like, you know, mentoring is not about creating mini Arnaldos. I don't want to go to the world and create mini versions of myself. And I see this in a lot of, I mean, mentors out there and a lot of, I mean, managers. It's like they're trying to recreate or themselves. I mean, and it's important that we're here to empower our team members, to empower our students. I mean, for them to be able to independent come up with ideas, to pursue their dreams. And this is, I mean, I'm going to refer to Horizons a lot because this is what I see. I mean, Jan and Marta were given an ideas and then they developed a whole program with a team, including Christine Kelly and many others, I mean, for the benefits of the community. And it's also about having faith. I mean, I've been there. As a mentor, it's not about like supporting, but it's also about challenging our students. It's about sponsoring them. It's about talking about them when they're not in the room. And I think that's about sponsoring our people. So now as I say, you know, I'm a team player, and for me, I bring a lot to a team based on my unique path, but I have to also understand that my path is unique to me, and there's many that will relate to me, but there's many that will not relate to my path. So as a mentor, it's important for me to have resources and provide advice to all, people from coming from different places. And for that, I did, reach out to my network, to my friends, to my people, and ask them for advice that they will provide, students, and I will show them, I will try to go as quickly as possible through this. It's like, from Sean and Nesby, Associate Dean here at Southwestern Diversity, it's like, it's also about not just creating and recruiting students and creating programming for our students, it's also educating the community that is going to welcome those students. A lot of the programs out there are for, for the students from underrepresented backgrounds. Let's provide programming for them. Let's make them feel welcome. And this was usually run by 2-3 people, 1-2 offices. But it's important that for us to also educate our community, educate the community that is going to welcome the students by creating a series of events, unconscious bias workshops that are led by Dr. Shana Nesby, diversity launches, in where people are going to hear our stories. People are going to learn and educate themselves, in order for us to keep learning. It's about keep learning. It's not about knowing all the answers. It's about being open and willing to learn. So, Sonny Chin, a faculty associate professor of microbiology at Penn that I truly respect and see her as a mentor, it's like, it's about building relationships. And it's about truly caring about our people. It's about being kind, being compassionate. So the way that she approaches her work is by listening, building the trust, and making sure that, a smile brings a lot of smiles in many people's faces. And it's about being truly, truly kind with our team. Dr. Russell DeVos-Boyce, a faculty here, a professor here at UT Southwestern, it's like, remember that you were here to do science. Your science is your currency. Your science is going to give you, take you to places. And when you're in those places, you bring your whole self and you communicate that with your students. But remember, work hard on what you will recruit it. If you're in STEM or if you're not in STEM, work hard. And to put your name out there based on your science and use this to impact others that look like you. Aníbal Rosario, he's a lawyer at Rutgers, University in Newark. It's about building a network. We'll go back. We'll see that we're going to be repeating a lot of the same. Advice is like building network. And sometimes, these projects are not out there already in place. It takes creativity. It's taking, your initiative to start something that is not there. And if it's not there, you make it your own and collaborate with people. Horizon, this is the second year. And this was an idea, brilliant idea that is helping so many people around the world. And it took initiative, it took a vision, a passion. And then, this is helping many others. So if it's not there, take the leadership and create something new. Jahaira Sierra Sache from a small town in Puerto Rico, similar town, we went to the same school. It's about perseverance. It's about working hard. Dream big, but also put the time in and work hard. And then when you're in those spaces, people are going to see you as a role model. And she's working now at NASA Glenn Research Centers. Científico Latino, Robert Fernandez. He created Científico Latino that is helping so many students applying to grad school these days. By not just providing advice, he's advocating to provide, provide fee waivers to the students. When I applied to school, I only applied to school because I didn't have the resources. So we don't want the lack of, financials, to limit our students' dream. So, and Dr. Fernandez is doing an amazing job. And also, it's like surround yourself with people that are going to uplift you, that are going to, your cheerleaders. I have my group of cheerleaders that I call all the times, and we help each other. And I think, you can bounce back ideas with the people. And I think this is what's going to help us move forward. Akipo Iwasaki, an HHMI faculty at Yale University, is like, she do this in her lab. It's not, with the people outside and forget the people inside your lab. You build the trust and respect. It is key, for your team and for your science to move forward. When you feel welcome and you feel that you belong to the space, you open up and you start exchanging ideas, and ideas will bounce back and forward, and then this will create new projects. And I think it's about fostering that environment. Marian Sarin Holland, she's now, a PhD from Rockefeller. Now she's at National Library of Medicine and Data Science, DNIH. You know, we remember that we're humans. I mean, she's the one that does story colliders. She's part of this team of story colliders. It's about telling your stories. Don't forget, I mean, sometimes we're in the sciences or we're in, deep in law or social, I mean, sciences and human, and we forget that we're humans. And we're not just words, so we have to tell our stories. My story is I'm a first-gen low-income student disabled from the southern part of the island in Puerto Rico. People will relate to your story. For years, I was worried about my accent. Now I embrace, I mean, my accent, and this is me. And I think this is helping, I mean, connect, I mean, with others as well. I mean, Jonathan Alzheimer, he's a teacher from Northern Virginia, and he has a book, I mean, called Next Level Teaching. And you know, we had to go back to K through 12. I mean, a lot of the programs are already, I mean, I started doing research when I was 20. I mean, that was too late. I mean, I didn't even know that that even was a path that I could follow. So we had to collaborate with teachers. I mean, Jonathan is doing an amazing work out there with, I mean, his students, and he's adapting the content to match the students' interests. Sometimes I mean, and this is, I mean, with people that runs programs, sometimes you plan the program and forget, I mean, to do the program to match your students' interests. And to provide content, I mean, that is relatable to their life. I mean, and this is really important. I mean, sometimes, I mean, I always use an example. For example, if you talk to me about, I'm from small town in Puerto Rico, you talk to me about metabolism, I will be like, oh, I mean, this is back, I mean, back in the time. I say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. But if you talk to me about diabetes, I mean, then I relate. I know, because this is important. I mean, this is things that I have seen, not necessarily in a lab, but I have seen, I mean, through my family members in the community. And then we had to find ways to connect with all the students. You know, I mean, with the students that are like the extrovert, but also with the introverts. I mean, the students sitting in the back of the room quiet, that was me. So we had to find ways and we engage with those students as well. Jennifer Henstra, she's I mean, a professor of chemistry at Emory. Amazing on Twitter. I mean, if you don't follow Jen Henstra, I encourage you to follow her. It's like, put it in writing. You know, there is a lot of talking, but you have to put it in writing. So in her lab, she have, I mean, the manual and guidelines that not just talk about ordering supplies, but also policies on mental health, peer mentoring, flexible work hours, conflict resolution. So this is important that she, as a leader of her team, put it in writing so people, I mean, that she can be held accountable as well. And Howard Liu, a psychiatry and chair of the Department of University of Nebraska, you know, ensure that, I mean, that this is constant work. I mean, in order for us to see change, you have to, I mean, this is, I mean, kind of like we have said this before, it's listen to your community and be active, I mean, and repeat, because this is not like a 1 week or 1 month or 1 year, I mean, work. This is, I mean, if we really want to see change happen, this is constant work. And there is never an end, because we have to keep growing and learning as a community. And Tina Termini, she's finishing her postdoc and starting a faculty position at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. You know, celebrate your accomplishment. Doesn't matter how big or small they are. You have to celebrate you and celebrate your people as well. Celebrate your community. You know, and then, I mean, start changing the perception that scientists are just in the lab and just publishing articles. You know, if you run a gel and you get good results, celebrate. I mean, celebrate everything and humanize. I mean, be humans. I mean, it's important that we don't forget that part. Justin Bullock, he's a resident, I mean, I use UCSF in internal medicine, you know, and this is something that we, and I'm guilty of this. We sometimes, I mean, it's all about work. And we feel this pressure that we have to constantly work and we have to change, I mean, the systems, and that we have to, I mean, keep thinking and being creative, and sometimes we forget about ourselves. And we have to prioritize our health, mental health, wellness. And it's important that don't forget that we are human first, and that we, I mean, should put ourselves first. Anenor, I mean, Dr. Hinton is amazing. He just, I mean, delivered a keynote speaker earlier this week here at UT Southwestern, amazing faculty at Vanderbilt. You know, you can do it all. I mean, this is his advice for the student. You can do it all, but you have to do it with a team. Remember that, we are not expert in everything. So that's why we have to come together as team. And that's why our team has to be diverse, because our perspectives are going to make our ideas even stronger. And then I mentioned this as one of my quotes, but Dr. Hinton as well. It's like, it's not making scientific claims. It's empowering you to put your ideas out there and to push forward, your goals. Ada Monzon, she's a meteorologist in Puerto Rico. So you see, I reach out to not just scientists, some people across different fields. So she's a meteorologist in Puerto Rico, and she do a lot. She's building a whole museum of science in Puerto Rico, and she's doing it by listening to the community. It's important that you listen to the community, that you intend to serve. So what's the point of creating a whole project but without listening to the community? So it's important that you develop something that is going to be beneficial for the people that you intend to serve. Dr. Pink Capers, he's a faculty associate dean here at UT Southwestern, professor of medicine, cardiology. Be courageous. Discussing and, ask those hard questions. Bring those topics. Don't be afraid of getting into a room and raise your hands and ask questions, because it's important that we use, these spaces to raise our voice and raise the voice of our community. But also, it's important that we need evidence, data-driven projects, data-driven ideas, so we can, propose change based on studies that have been done. And this is what is important to communicate and to work in teams. David Asai, Senior Director at Howard Hughes Medical Institute. This is the group that runs the Gillian Fellowships. It's important to understand that many of the programs are centered in fixing the students. And we have to change that view in working in fixing the culture. And that's why HHMI is doing a lot of mentoring training for the faculty, and training for the faculty and the trainees together. So, and I think it's important that we start not just creating programs for the student, but also programs that are going to make an impact in the institution that hold those programs. Ashani, from Hopkins, amazing scientist and an amazing human being. It's like, helping people to become aware. It's important. Sometimes people are not even aware. So it's important that we raise those questions, that we bring those topics to the tables and we discuss them. And even, it's frustrating when you have to repeat yourself over and over, but sometimes it's needed so your message is delivered. Find ways in where you deliver your message. It could be like a written communications, an open forums, Twitter, whatever place you can use. It's important that your message go to the community that you are working on and the community across. Lamont Terrell, a PhD at GlaxoSmithKline. Follow your passions. He has worked at Glaxo. He started as a scientist first. Now he's more in the human resources, and he works in global. In terms of diversifying the scientists at GlaxoSmithKline, and he has developed programs that were not there. So he has taken the time to develop pipeline programs. So I have collaborated with him in the past, and it's amazing the work that he's doing to diversify GSK. If you go to an institution that they don't have a program in place, but you have an idea, you have a vision, you have a passion, you put it together and build a team and put that forward, those ideas forward. Ronald Smith, faculty program director at Howard University. Ask those tough questions, but necessary questions. And if there's nothing in place, you can be the agents of change. And it's important that you work. You bring this to the organization, you bring the data, you have those difficult but honest conversations. It's important that to take the initiative to see, to make change happen. Barbara Robles, she's an assistant professor here in Texas, in San Antonio. And share your voice, share your expertise. It's about us learning, but it's about communicating also what we learn in a way that our people will understand, the people that will relate. So it's important that we never forget where we came from. So when I have a PhD now. I've been in the United States for since 2002. But every time that I go to Puerto Rico, I'll take the time to visit a museum, to work with the community so I can communicate with them what I'm doing in Spanish, so that we can have that. Because I mean, it's just in my faculty at Cornell. He's also involved with ABRACAN, the Annual Biomedical Research Conference. It's like, asking people to share their experiences, ask them when they feel welcome, and listen, because this is data, I mean, that is going to help us understand our community, and it's going to help us, I mean, put the best programs out there. And Daria Clark, she's a program coordinator here at UT Southwestern. She's a veteran from the Air Force. It's like, recognizing that everybody has different talents, different strengths based on their experiences, their educational experiences, but also their life experiences. So her, as coming from the Air Force, she brings knowledge that many others in this team have. And her expertise and the things that she has seen help us as a team, I mean, to develop, I mean, better programs. There is no like such a perfect program out there, but there are all those programs that are willing to listen and learn. And having somebody that was in the Air Force background, I mean, it just makes us a stronger team here at UT. Karina, my friend, mentor, friend for life, Karina Gonzalez. I mean, she came undocumented to the United States. I mean, she's a DACA recipient. She completed her PhD at Harvard, and now she's an associate director in diversity and minority at Harvard. It's like, when you talk to the student, it's important to know the data that they're collecting. It's important to know the progress that they have made in their project, but it's also equally or even more important to talk about their wellness, to have resources in place to support them. If you see somebody quiet in the room, don't make the assumption that they're just not engaged or interested in the topic. Make sure that you build the trust first, and that you provide resources and be empathetic. Be empathetic about that, maybe you know how to, I mean, handle those challenges in a different way. We all handle the challenges in a different way. So it's important that we ask questions about the data, but we also, I mean, take time during your meetings to ask them, do you have any questions, or are there any topics that you would like to talk? And make sure that you provide the space and build the trust. Shoba Subramanian, Director of Curriculum at the University of Michigan. And this goes back, I mean, to what Karina Gonzalez from Harvard says, like, we don't know everyone's reality. Everybody have backgrounds, everybody have ongoing struggles. We're not just, I mean, employees of the institution. We're also, I mean, parents. We're also, artists. We are also, I mean, like to go to sports. We also, I mean, have families back home. We're also here. I've been here, I mean, for the last 2 years, I haven't been able to travel due to COVID. So we all have a life outside. So it's important that we don't make assumptions. Ernestine Baker, somebody that I truly respect a lot. She was the first director of the Meyerhoff Scholars Programs at UMBC, an amazing program that have done a lot for our students and for our communities, and many brilliant scientists, I mean, have come from Meyerhoff. And every time that I ask the Meyerhoff students, what do you remember about the Meyerhoff programs? It's the community that they built. It's how they feel welcome. I mean, how they felt that their ideas were taken seriously. And how they, I mean, I know Ernestine Baker for a long time now, and she challenged her students to keep moving forward. She challenged them to accept, teach them how to accept criticism. I mean, how to listen, because it's not about just the mentor listening to the students, it's also about the students listening to the mentors. So it's a two-way street. So it's important that the work that the Meyerhoff is doing and how this program should be replicated, I mean, through the nation. Manny J. Garcia, I mean, he's completed a doctoral degree at CUNY. He's behind, I mean, a lot of the work being done by Black in mental health, every mental health awareness. I mean, find people, he tells me all the time, find people that will believe in you. People that are going to listen and support you and celebrate for you, who you are, celebrate what makes you different. Sometimes, I mean, as I said before, my accents may sometimes make me feel inferior, but that's me. Now I enjoy when I talk and I roll my R's, because that's me. So it's important what Manny J tell me all the time. It's like, find people that will believe in you and that will support you and will listen to you and, and trust your instincts and be creative. And then, so with this, I want to say that, whenever you're in grad school or where you're working full time, you sometimes forget that you are also a human being. And I'm not saying that you're not a human when you're working, but I mean, if you play an instrument, if you like to dance, drawing, writing, visiting museum, whatever you like, whatever your hobbies are, you don't have to stop because you're in a training program. So I recently stopped painting. These are some of my last four, that I made this week. It's because, I find that so, help me relax, help me find my find some peace. So, and I attach that to culture. So, I pick up a challenge this day. I challenge myself to try to paint something from different countries. So I started with Mexico, Colombia, Puerto Rico, but I'm going to keep growing. So I'm asking my students, send me something that represents your country because I want to paint something. And I'm planning on setting up something in my office to highlight every piece of art. Kobe Smith, he is more in development with a degree in education. So, bring yourself to work. Bring who you are to your position because that's not going to make you feel happy, but it's also going to empower you and it's going to make your product even better. And I think, and be flexible. Be flexible. If you're a manager, be flexible. Talk to your staff, talk to your team. And develop, revise the objectives, revise the vision. It's important that when you develop a project, it's not just a one meeting. It's like a follow-up meetings to making sure that we're on the same page and that we're moving forward together. Luis Martinez, a faculty here at Trinity University in Texas. It's about learning. As I said before, we don't know all the answers. It's about, sharing best practices, publishing, follow, the journals of higher education. Follow different professional societies, via Twitter or via the professional, society meetings and learn. Take time to go through those, out of the box or out of your comfort zone, topics to learn, because that's going to make you better. And also, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time that you develop a project. It's go to a place, take the time to listen, learn, and then try to collaborate with others and bring something that you learn back to your institution. Pamela Padilla, she's the president of SACNAS. She's also a faculty here at University of North Texas. I invite speakers, have programs in place, not just for the student, but also for the faculty. So she has a seminar series in which she brings speakers and workshops for her faculty. So, it's important that not all the resources and programs are just for the students, because if we want to make change happen and we have to shift the culture of our institution, we have to have programming and training in place for our faculty and for our staff as well. And Joji Jimisu, he's a faculty at University of Minnesota, director of the MSTP. Once again, listen and appreciate your journey, celebrate your successes, make a list of things that you have accomplished, and read it to yourself. And sometimes, and I do this all the time, we forget how much we have accomplished. And it's important that we acknowledge that and we learn from our mistakes. For me, when that experiment didn't work, is when you learn the most, because then you have to go back and troubleshoot and find solutions. And that's don't see that as a failure. See that as yes, the experiment failed, but you grow as a scientist. And I think it's important to celebrate that as well. Denzel Street, he is chief of staff and assistant dean of diversity at UC Berkeley. We only have control over ourselves and our responses. Sometimes we try to think of what the others, people how they're going to respond or what they're going to say. We can only control, ourselves. We can only control how we respond to those challenges. So it's important that you, take the time. Take the time to find your peace, find yourself. Before you respond. To something. Alison Gamit, she is the director of the training, workforce development and diversity, and NIGMS. Keep growing, bringing new programs. The NIH is also always trying to bring new programs, and it's important that that we understand I mean, that's something that worked 10 years ago, not necessarily the program that we would like to have now. Maybe we had to enhance our program. Maybe we had to bring something new trainings in place. I mean, so at the NIH, I mean, Alison Gami and many others are doing an amazing work. Janet Valdez Tejera is a faculty director of vaccines conversations in Canada. You know, I reach out to people across the world. I mean, and you know, she goes back to the same thing that we have mentioned, you know, and be empathetic, active listening. It's not by just looking at you, this is by active listening. I mean, paying attention, seeing people eye to eye. It's important when you're, I mean, mentoring and when you're leading a team. Acknowledging that everybody's point of view will have different points of view. I mean, we don't have to agree, but we have to be able to respect. I mean, we must respect everybody's points of view, and then respect people's opinion. And Kenneth Gibbs, I mean, at the NIH also, I mean, he, you know, keep on pressing on. I mean, it's difficult, the journey is long, the obstacles are real, but our work is needed. And we have to keep pushing forward. You know, sometimes we think that the mentors are only people that are farther ahead in our careers. And for me, my best mentors, I mean, that I have encountered in my careers are my students. And I think I'm really blessed because of that. And then, you know, and then, as I said before, you know, programs thrive when there's developed on the input from the community that they intend to serve. And for that reason, I reach out to my students as well. And I asked, I mean, she just completed her PhD, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Woodward, and she's, you know, so it's important that we just not hear your voice or listen, is that we value and respect you and we include your ideas into our projects. So it's important that we don't do this once. I mean, we have an open door policies, you know, that in where we need the constant feedback back and forth in order to keep moving forward and provide the best training. Many others, I mean, are in the call. I mean, Dr. Marta Duawera, that she's, I believe she's on the call today. She just completed her PhD as well. You know, don't be afraid to share with others your experiences and how these experiences have shaped you and what you bring to the table. Marta brings a lot, I mean, of experiences, not from her PhD, but from the amazing thing that she had done through her career. And, you know, when she's at the table, make sure that she have a voice, but also make sure that you're listening and hearing her voice and incorporating her ideas. Gabrielle Reyes is a PhD student at Stanford University, and he created a group of first generation low income students in science. And it's important that to understand that we sometimes, I mean, we don't have the resources. And wealth should not be a prerequisite, I mean, for entering the space in science. So we had to come up with in programming, things like Scientific Latino student, I mean, providing, I mean, working with different institutions to make sure that there's fee waivers, you know, because these are things we should try to eliminate barriers, I mean, that are there, and they're, I mean, pushing our people, pushing many students, I mean, out of the academia. And then, I mean, Maximiliano, he's from Colombia. You know, be kind, be empathetic, be sensible, that we all face different challenges. Not just us, but our places are back home in Puerto Rico with the earthquakes and the hurricanes, back in Colombia with everything that is going on in society. So, you know, we have to make sure that we're kind. We're kind, and I think it's important that we are empathetic and we listen and we're sensible to other people's, I mean, life. And I said it before, there is no such a thing as a perfect program, but those that are willing to learn, and those that are working hard to maintain the best training and provide all members with an inclusive, diverse, and safe community. You know, and being inclusive is celebrating people for who they are and acknowledging the power our differences bring to the table. So with that, thank you again for the opportunity to Horizons, to Marta, Jan, Christine, and all the people involved. This is my contact information. This is my Twitter. And then I want to end by saying, like, you know, embrace being different. Your culture, your life experiences, skills, ideas, even your accent. This is me. This is my pose, right? And my accent made me unique. And remember that no one else bring this distinct combination to the table. So be proud of who you are and let that empower your success. So with that, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.